I made a video a while back about being faceblind. At the time, I had some thoughts and anecdotes that didn't fit in that video. I've decided to share them now. Let's get into it. I usually like my videos to have a clear and obvious point, but this one is just going to be some scattered thoughts. Bear with me. Random tidbit number 1. I know that it's fairly common for autistic people to be faceblind, and I have a theory about why this might be. There's a thing that human brains do in childhood through young adulthood called synaptic pruning. If I understand correctly, it means the brain improves its own efficiency by finding synapses that seem redundant for whatever reason, and killing them off. Except autistic brains don't seem to prune their synapses to the same extent that allistic brains do, and it's thought that this may be why autistic people can get so overwhelmed by levels of noise, touch, etc. that would be perfectly comfortable for an allistic person. We're simply taking in more stuff than other people do, all the time. Our brains can't filter out irrelevant information. So what I'm thinking is, maybe an allistic person's brain simplifies faces down to a few core elements in a way that mine does not. Maybe I'm getting the complicated, unfiltered version and it's too much, so I end up getting distracted by tiny details. Random tidbit number 2. Realizing I'm faceblind was an M. Night Shyamalan style plot twist that made me review my whole existence through the lens of this new information. One thing I realized once I discovered that I'm faceblind is that if I'm meeting up with a friend in a public place, my main way of recognizing them has always been to see them recognize me first. I mean, I'm filtering by things like build and hair color and apparent gender too, but after that, the main thing I'm looking for is eye contact that has a sudden sense of purpose in it, followed by the person hurrying over to me. I have sometimes mistakenly approached total strangers who had flagged me down with their eyeballs because they wanted something from me. Only once they got closer did it suddenly click for me that some of their features were wrong and this was not my friend. The information that I'm faceblind also made me look at my casual hookups in a new light. In my early 20s I moved to a new city, away from my parents and exes and childhood bullies, and was reveling in my newfound freedom. I was a regular at a particular nightclub and would often bring a guy home with me at the end of the night. I remember surreptitiously trying to memorize their faces as we made out and stuff, and telling myself that I did this because I was so attracted. I remember feeling a jittery kind of excitement that I figured was the thrill of novelty. In retrospect, yeah, there was attraction and novelty. But I see now that some of what it felt like excitement was, in fact, fear. Each guy had fragments of his face that I found hot, otherwise I wouldn't have brought him home in the first place. But my brain couldn't assemble the fragments into a cohesive whole. For all intents and purposes, I didn't know what any of these dudes looked like. In the back of my mind I knew that if the guy I was with ended up assaulting me, I wouldn't be able to pick him out of a police lineup. I'd never be able to go back to the club without panicking every time I saw someone with superficially similar features to his. Or, worse, maybe I'd go to the club and he'd be there and I'd have no idea. It was a horribly vulnerable thought. So I stared at each guy's face when I thought he wasn't paying attention, trying to memorize it. And at the time I told myself that I was doing this out of attraction, but really it was self-preservation. I can see now that my faceblindness has also complicated my dating life. My ADHD brain likes solving puzzles, and the mystery of how a new partner's facial features fit together is a tantalizing and infuriating puzzle for it to obsess over. I've definitely conflated that obsessive feeling with attraction at times. Plus it typically takes me a few months of frequent face-to-face hangouts with someone before I start grasping what they look like, and in the past I've tended to start sleeping with a new partner before reaching that point. I didn't have the same fears I did with my casual hookups, but it still felt disconcerting to be intimate with someone whose face I couldn't reliably identify, and I guess I wrote that feeling off as excitement and powered through anyway. Now that I've identified my discomfort around intimacy with people I can't recognize, I've decided that in future it would be best to avoid doing naked stuff with someone new until their face makes sense to me. Random tidbit number 3. When I first learned about the concept of faceblindness, I assumed I couldn't have it, in part because I have kind of an uncanny knack for recognizing actors in full face prosthetics. I immediately guessed that the actor who played Quark on Deep Space Nine is Armin Shimmerman, and all that's visible of his face is his eyes, so obviously I'm incredibly good with faces, right? I see now that that was a ridiculous contradiction. How could I be recognizing someone by their face when their face was covered up? In fact, my faceblindness is directly how I'm able to recognize actors in prosthetics faster than the average person. I've always had to compensate for my poor facial recognition by noticing people's mannerisms, voice, and gait. Random tidbit number 4. There's a condition called aphantasia, where a person can't picture things in their head whatsoever. They might know factually that they own a peach sweater, and recognize the sweater when they see it, but they can't summon a mental image of the sweater when they're not looking at it. I was baffled by this. I couldn't understand how a person could remember the visual details of things without seeing an image in their head. But recently it occurred to me, isn't that kind of the way my brain is with human faces? When I first see a face, I can't seem to retain a mental image of it. I try, but I can't. The best I can do is memorize some verbal descriptors. When I know someone's face really well, I can finally start picturing it in my head. But there's a point in between these two extremes where I start being able to recognize someone when I see them, but still have no mental image of them. It's like my brain stores their features in a file format that's just data, not a GIF or JPEG. If the person in question is standing in front of me, my brain says, "The information your eyeballs are giving you matches the data we have on file for so-and-so," and that's how I recognize them. And my wild guess is that maybe this is how it works with someone with aphantasia too, except with absolutely everything, not just faces. If by any chance someone watching this is aphantasia, please let me know in the comments whether I'm onto something here. Random tidbit number 5. I'm trans, and I've heard a lot of other trans people say that before transition, they felt disconnected to their image or couldn't recognize themselves in the mirror. Then they transitioned and could finally see themselves. I'll admit that I've been hoping transitioning would give me that feeling of, oh my god, I can finally see myself. However, it seems likely that my face blindness, not my transness, is the reason my face doesn't seem like mine. Testosterone has reformatted my face into something a bit more masculine, and I notice and appreciate this. But I still don't think I feel the way a person is supposed to feel when they see their own face. That's all I have to say for now. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.